Hello there! My name is Nina and I'm the summer student at the Roedde House Museum this year, and welcome to the fourth and final of our What's Cooking Wednesday specials. Now, I'm dressed like a Victorian servant today. We've got my cute little cap and everything, because today, to close off our What's Cooking programming, we'll be talking about cleaning in the Victorian home. Now, that may seem like a bit of a mundane topic, but I promise you I've got lots of exciting stuff in store. I'm going to be showing off some exciting old-fashioned gadgets. We're going to be talking about some of the themes that I brought up in the servant video last week. It's going to be a good time. So if you'll follow me into the Roedde House kitchen, we can get started. Now, the late 19th and early 20th centuries saw a really rapidly growing market in labor-saving devices, these exciting new inventions that were going to make people's lives easier. The Victorians loved science and they loved the idea of progress with a capital P, and that was something that had really defined the era, starting with the Industrial Revolution in the 1820s onward. And that was still very much a part of the sort of cultural zeitgeist when the Roeddes were living here in Vancouver in this lovely little kitchen. We've talked about how some of these newfangled gadgets were used in cooking a couple of weeks ago. Remember, I showed you folks the bread makers, the little manual egg beater. That was a lot of fun. Today I'm going to show you a few similar gadgets that were done less with cooking and more with house cleaning in mind. So nowadays, when you need to clean a carpet, like this cool braided rag rug that we've got here, you would probably clean this nowadays with a vacuum cleaner. But for most of the Victorian era, they hadn't been invented yet. But since many Victorian homes are absolutely filled with carpets, and the Roedde House is no exception, you would clean your carpets this way. So I've got this tin of tea leaves right here. I'm going to bring it in a little closer to the camera because it's absolutely gorgeous. Take a look at this. Tea was often sold in these beautiful tins. Sometimes you can still get them at souvenir places. I love tea tins. I have my tea tin out because if you were cleaning a carpet before the days of vacuum cleaners, you would use damp tea leaves, probably left over from morning tea, and you would scatter them over the carpet, and that was called laying the dust. You would let the tea leaves sit there and they would absorb large portions of dust that had accumulated in the carpet and grime and whatnot, and it would sit there, and then the tea leaves would kind of soak up the worst of the grime and draw it out, and it would make it easier to clean, especially if it was a very thick carpet that it had, or one that hadn't been cleaned in a long time. After you'd laid the dust, you would lift up your carpet, which was quite heavy, take it outside, and then remember the rattan beaters I show you folks in our laundry video? You take one of those, this little guy right here, and you would hit the carpet over and over. I'm kind of wielding it like a baseball bat here until clouds of dust flew out. So you can imagine that was something you would have to do outside, and you would have to do it in nice weather. So in the winter months, especially somewhere rainy like the West Coast, your carpets would probably accumulate quite a lot of grime over the course of the winter, and you would have to spend several days cleaning them all over the summer. So that was a lot of work. That's a lot of heavy lifting, lots of upper body strength. So you can imagine that carpet cleaning was a field that Victorian inventors and domestic scientists types were very interested in. I've got a couple of inventions here that are from the later half of the 19th century. This one here is a carpet sweeper, and this was kind of the main way that you could clean your carpets before the invention of vacuum cleaners. There are plenty of people still alive today who would have used them. I actually have a funny family story about how when my grandpa moved into a retirement home, he was buying furniture, and one of the things he asked my family to look for was he wanted to buy a new carpet sweeper. And for the life of us, my mom and I could not figure out where to buy one. But anyway, the way it works is it's got this handle that can tilt, so you can put it in a different angle, and then I'm going to lift it up very carefully. It looks kind of similar to a modern vacuum cleaner, but without the suction. It's got these little rubber wheels that turn when you push it, and it has this rotating brush handle. that soaks up dust, and then you do have to, after you're done sweeping, you have to go in and clean it. So, just gonna adjust the angle properly. You would push it around on wheels, and you can actually, it's a bit hard to tell in this lighting, but I think it actually still kind of works. I just, there was a twig on that part of the carpet and now it's gone, so I guess this thing still works. This would have been a lot easier than using rattan beaters, but as you can imagine, if your house is absolutely covered in carpeting, this is still a lot of work. Yeah, there you go, get a look at that. It's got this fun little seal on it. It's very like rural Britannia. Again, the Victorians were really taking pride in their ability to invent things and make the lives easier for the citizens of the British Empire. Now, you know, make it that what you will and take it with a grain of salt, of course. But that is how the carpet sweeper works, long story short. So that would have been the main way to clean your carpets until vacuums came along. However, that doesn't really work so well on floors. If you were going to clean a floor before the advent of a vacuum cleaner that could clean a carpet and a floor, you would have taken a scrubbing brush and a bucket of soapy water and probably some sort of floor cleaner, and you would have gotten down on your hands and knees and scrubbed. So that would have been extremely labor intensive, very hard on the knees. That was definitely, if you were a middle class family like the Roeddes, that is something you wanted to delegate to your servants. Now, the kitchen here does not have a wooden floor, but many of the floors in the Roedde house are made of fir wood that was treated and nicely polished. It looks very lovely and warm, but it means that it would have needed special cleaning. So you would have probably had some sort of chemical component like this floor cleaner. You can see it's still got some chemical in there. I am definitely not going to open the cork because who knows how old this is and who knows what exactly is in that little magic potion here. But you would have used something like this to clean your floors, and there was, in the late 19th century, there were many, many, many brands of floor polisher that could be quite competitive. They were using lots of very colorful advertising to get their products across. You can see how colorful this one is with this like rising sun imagery. It's got some cool, it's got directions here. I'm not going to tilt it all the way. This little floor shine. I just think this bottle in particular is very cool looking. Now, unfortunately, we do not have many cleaning supplies that have survived or that people have donated to the museum. When I was getting ready to film this video, I was really hoping I could find like a feather duster or something, because that was a major component of cleaning in the Victorian era, was like going onto shelves and doing dusting. But the trouble with cleaning is that it's such a kind of mundane activity that everybody does, that often when we're looking at historical preservation, people don't really think to record it. You know, people take it for granted, whereas something that's very fancy, like a very opulent building, like say the Empress Hotel, is much more likely to get preserved than things like cleaning brushes, which can be a real shame when you're trying to study things like labor history or gender history or domestic history, because of, the bias toward what does and doesn't get preserved. But anyway, that is a bit of a digression, and I could really go down a huge rabbit hole with that. If you study the Victorian era in any academic capacity, you're going to be talking about that type of preservation and what does and doesn't survive. The truth is, I do not really have a tangent planned. I was going to go from talking about cleaning supplies and brushes to talking about the weighted floor polisher, and then I kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, so I'm sorry about that. This video is not going to flow as well as I planned. But that being said, I do have another gadget here, and it's quite a heavy one, that would have taken the place of scrubbing on your hands and knees. This one, it's very heavy. It's called a dust bane, and it's what you would have paired with your carpet sweeper to clean solid floors. You would have put a little floor polisher on it, and then you can see this part is made of like stone or cement or something, or metal. It's quite heavy. And you would have pushed this around, and then it's got brush attachments on the bottom. You can see, I'll try and lift it, it's pretty heavy. It's got like some brushes on the bottom there. So you would have used that and pushed it around your wooden floors to make sure that the wax or the polish or whatever fancy, brightly advertised new concoction you were using to keep your floors nice and clean. You would have, every day you would have swept with a broom like the one you saw me using at the beginning of the video, and then once in a while, when the floors really needed a top up and really needed a nice polish, you would have used this beastie. You can see I have to really put a lot of effort into moving it around, so it is nice that I get to stand using this and not on my hands and knees, but you can see that it is still very hard work. I'm just going to carefully lift that up.